You don't belong at this table. You never did. But what if the one they pushed away came back owning everything they once held over her? Let me tell you Claire's story, and why silence isn't weakness. I parked my decade-old Honda Accord between a Bentley and a Porsche. That told me everything I needed to know. Nothing had changed here. The driveway hadn't been repaved since I left, but the arrogance had been freshly polished. Same iron gates, same perfectly trimmed hedges, same icy glow pouring from the tall windows like judgment. I stepped out, heels hitting the gravel with a steadiness I didn't feel inside. The last time I walked through this front door, no one tried to stop me. There had been no fights, no shouting, no broken heirlooms, only silence. An easy kind of exile, the kind they could deny ever happened. And now, 9 years later, I was walking back in with the same quiet. But I wouldn't be leaving with it. Inside, the chandelier sparkled like a weapon overhead. Crystal, sterile. The kind of light that exposed every flaw, unless you were born flawless, like my brother Nathan. Or so they said. The foyer smelled of pine and rosemary. Expensive, orchestrated. I slid my coat off and hung it neatly on the rack as if I were a guest in someone else's story. No one came to greet me. Not the maid, not my mother, not even Brandon, who usually sniffed opportunity like a truffle pig. I found them in the dining room, mid-toast. Vanessa was the first to spot me. Her smile stretched too wide, her eyes too calculating. "Claire," she chimed. What a surprise. My mother barely turned. "Look who decided to show up," Evelyn said, voice crisp and cool like the untouched ice sculpture at the table's center. The long mahogany table seated 12. 11 chairs were occupied. One seat remained at the farthest end, near the wall. Next to it, an empty one. Unused. Symbolic. I didn't flinch. I walked past them all, heads turning, voices dipping. Brandon muttered something under his breath. Laughter followed. I sat. In the chair that had clearly never belonged to me. Nathan stood to refill his wine. "A toast," he said, raising the crystal glass like a scepter. "To family, may we never forget where we came from or the standards we uphold." Vanessa nodded graciously. Evelyn sipped slowly. No one looked at me. I folded my hands in my lap, wrists relaxed. My watch was still ticking. Steady, precise. The sound was more real to me than the clatter of silverware or the hum of forced conversation. "Claire," Evelyn began, folding her napkin just so. "You've always embarrassed this family." The words hung in the air like perfume, deliberate, layered, suffocating. No one objected. Not Nathan, not Vanessa, not even Brandon, who only smirked. I didn't blink. I lifted my wine glass, let it hover just above the table, and set it back down. Untouched. They wanted me to break. Instead, I sat straighter. The food arrived. Carved turkey, sweet potatoes dusted with cinnamon, cranberry sauce like blood pooling in crystal. None of it felt real. Across the room, the tall windows reflected it all back to me. A portrait of a family gathered in symmetry, with one mismatched corner. I glanced down at my watch. It's still ticking, and tonight it's counting down to something. "Are you still coding?" Vanessa asked, like I was an intern at a hobby club. Her fork hovered midair, one bite of quinoa salad left. Deliberate, precise, performative. The kind of pause that waits for an audience. Nathan chuckled before I could answer. "Claire always had a knack for clicking things. Remember when she tried to fix the modem during dinner?" Brandon snorted. "She reset the whole house network. We missed half the Super Bowl." Laughter followed. Polished, rehearsed, cruel in its civility. I looked at Vanessa. Her teeth were perfect. Her necklace looked new. And she didn't know the first thing about what I did, which was exactly the point. "I am," I said simply. "Still building." My voice was even, but they still laughed. Not because it was funny, but because they could. Vanessa reached for her wine, swirling it once before sipping. "It's just, I thought people your age, in your field, eventually became managers or investors. Not whatever it is you do. She freelances, Brandon added with a smirk, from cafes, like those digital nomads on YouTube. I didn't correct him, not because he was right. He wasn't even close, but because I knew how little it would matter. Nathan launched into a story about winning a litigation case for a biotech firm, punctuating each turn with how messy founders get when money appears. Vanessa leaned in with admiration. Evelyn, poised as ever, dabbed the corner of her mouth with a cloth napkin. Claire's always marched to her own drum, my mother said lightly. A silent one. Her tone was warm, her smile gentle, but her words bit harder than anything Brandon could have thrown. I remembered a night 3 years ago. I had landed a government cybersecurity contract, a first in my field. I had written one email to this very table. Subject line: finally, a win I thought you'd want to hear. I waited. Not a single reply. Not even a read receipt. Silence. Weaponized. I had shown Erin the draft before I sent it. Don't expect anything back, she'd said, not unkindly. Send it for you, not for them. I hadn't listened. I sent it for them, and they'd answered me with this. Laughter over turkey and sweet potatoes, questions not meant to be answered, jokes not meant to be funny. Brandon launched into another opinion, this time about how the tech bubble was popping and how I should get out while I still could. Nathan nodded in agreement. Vanessa offered to introduce me to someone who worked at a real firm. I smiled once. It didn't touch my eyes. The meal dragged on. Every course perfectly plated, every insult dipped in gold leaf. Evelyn turned to me again. You've always been so independent, Claire. I admire that. Of course, we just wish you'd stayed a bit closer to home. Maybe you'd understand what success looks like. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I didn't need to fight for air here. My phone vibrated beneath the table, subtle and intentional. I slid it from my lap and glanced at the screen. A name. Erin. Just one word, glowing back at me like a lighthouse through fog. A silent signal from someone who actually saw me. Excuse me, Ms. Whitmore. Erin's voice was quiet. But in that moment, it was the only sound that mattered. Dessert had just been served. Creme brulee, hand-torched by the caterer in front of us like a magic trick no one applauded. The flicker of candlelight played off the gold-rimmed plates and the crystal spoons, but no one was eating. I looked up. Erin stood just beyond the archway, hands clasped loosely in front of her, dressed in tailored black like a shadow that had stepped into light. The hum of conversation stalled. The room shifted. Ms. Whitmore, she said again with gentle emphasis. The jet is ready. Tokyo team is receiving confirmation now. Vanessa dropped her spoon. The silver hit porcelain, then silence. Nathan leaned forward, tone suddenly sharp. Jet? Erin turned to him slowly, as if acknowledging a lesser interruption. We maintain intercontinental mobility for classified meetings. Ms. Whitmore's Tokyo division requested a live debrief. Vanessa blinked twice. I thought you were still freelancing? Brandon gave a low whistle. You own a jet? No, I replied, setting my napkin down carefully. We lease 2, shared by Arcadia's executive team. Nathan's brow creased. Arcadia? I unlocked my phone, tapped the screen once, and pulled up the Bloomberg app. The headline filled the screen. Arcadia Cyber wins $900 million DHS contract, Claire Whitmore to lead execution. I slid the phone across the table. The headline glowed between the polished glasses. My face stared back at them in high-definition clarity. Underneath my title, Founder and CEO. No one moved. Brandon recovered first. 900 million? Wait, you built that? Erin stood beside me now, still silent. Her presence calibrated like the rest of the reveal. Precise, contained, devastating. Yes, I said. We specialize in post-quantum secure infrastructure. DHS just greenlit our architecture for Phase 3 implementation. Nathan looked like he'd swallowed something wrong. You never said, I didn't need to, I interrupted. Evelyn remained composed, though her eyes had shifted. Watching, measuring, dismantling. Vanessa cleared her throat. So, Arcadia, is it yours? I founded it, I said evenly. 8 years ago. But, Nathan began. Erin turned her gaze to him, soft but unwavering. You may remember when Ms. Whitmore sent you a demo link to her prototype encryption module. You never opened it. He froze. I smiled politely. We traced that IIP rejection, a memorable moment in our origin story. No one laughed this time. Brandon pushed back from the table slightly, as if reevaluating the weight of the air around him. We thought you... Vanessa began again, then stopped. You always made it sound like you were just... tinkering. I was, I said, until I wasn't. The air had changed. The walls hadn't moved, but the table had shrunk. Power had migrated. Quietly. Completely. I returned my gaze to the screen. Under the headline, a subcaption. Cybersecurity's Silent Architect, Claire Whitmore on Building Unbreakable Walls. Erin didn't speak. She didn't need to. Evelyn reached for the phone. Her manicured hand trembled ever so slightly, a fracture in her porcelain composure. But she didn't touch it. Arcadia? Brandon said, blinking like the headline might change if he stared long enough. That's... you? No one answered him. Not right away. The dining room so carefully arranged, candles glowing, silver cutlery gleaming, crystal glasses still full, now felt suspended in a hush louder than any outburst. Forks rested midair, breath held mid-chest, a table frozen in time. I leaned back slightly, hands folded on the tablecloth. The silence wasn't mine anymore. It was theirs. I had outgrown it. Evelyn's gaze was still fixed on the screen, though the article had long gone dark. Her phone sat idle beside her plate, untouched. Her face unreadable. But her fingers, the ones that had once pressed my piano lessons into muscle memory, were twitching now. Slight. Involuntary. Brandon was the first to recover. Opportunist instincts firing like reflex. Claire, he began, trying to conjure charm from confusion. I mean, I had no idea. That's seriously impressive. And honestly, I've been looking to diversify. If Arcadia ever considers private placement... We don't, I replied. He blinked again. Right. But maybe strategic alignment? I've got contacts at... We're already aligned. I didn't smile. With defense, finance, energy. Anything you bring, we've already passed. Nathan cleared his throat. Claire, listen. It's not just about deals. I mean, family synergy matters, public image, legacy. Now that you're operating on this scale, we should sit down. Talk about how the Whitmore name should stay out of federal contracts. I tilted my head. Because that's what you said to me in 2019, at brunch. You were worried the optics of my work might distract from your firm's branding. His mouth opened, closed. Evelyn didn't look at him. Not anymore. Vanessa straightened her back. Her voice was velvet. I just want to say, I've always believed in your intelligence, Claire. I mean, you were coding before we even knew what that meant. And honestly, I'd love to collaborate. If you're hiring, What language do you code in, Vanessa? I asked. She blinked. Just one, I said. Any will do. Silence. Well, that's not really my strength. She laughed, brittle. I'm more of a people person. I nodded slowly. We already have humans on payroll. We also need engineers. Vanessa looked down. The candlelight shimmered off her glass like a curtain falling. Erin hadn't moved an inch. Her gaze was neutral, measured, present. I reached into my handbag and pulled out a folded envelope. Cream paper, embossed. Familiar. I placed it in the center of the table, between the centerpiece and the untouched desserts. Evelyn's eyes locked onto it. You remember this? I asked. 2015. Sent to DHS directly. CC'd to every contact I had. Hand-signed by you. I didn't open it for 2 years. Brandon shifted uncomfortably. Nathan looked away. Evelyn's voice was quiet. You weren't ready then. We were protecting you. I unfolded the envelope and slid the letter halfway out, just enough to show the line I had memorized. Please do not associate the Whitmore name with unvetted ventures. I let the silence sharpen the rest. Evelyn reached toward it, a slow, practiced hand, the same one that used to smooth my hair before violin recitals, now shaking. She didn't touch the paper. You wrote it, I said. Now you can keep it. I pushed the envelope toward her, just an inch. It stopped in front of her wine glass. Her hand remained in the air as if still deciding whether to grasp, retract, or pretend none of this was happening. I turned to Erin. The board vote? She gave a single nod, expression unreadable. Unanimous, we proceed. The room held its breath. I checked my watch. The clock was ticking, but not for the Whitmores anymore. ChatGPT John Noy. Tai sao toi nei? Evelyn asked. Her voice didn't sound like command. It sounded like fear. The foyer was colder than the dining room, or maybe it only felt that way because of the silence. The marble echoed beneath my heels, each step louder than the last course of the meal they never finished. Behind me, the chandelier still sparkled with curated elegance. A museum piece in a gallery of people who had never seen me. A coat was already draped over my arm. The driver waited outside, engine running, headlights spilling across the gravel like an invitation. Evelyn stepped closer. You're still family. I didn't move. You had 9 years to act like it. Nathan came next. Claire, you should have told us. I turned my head slightly. You never listened. Behind them, Brandon and Vanessa lingered just within view, hesitant, observing, hoping proximity might pass for connection. Vanessa tried anyway. If we'd known... You did. My voice was quiet, not cruel. You just didn't care. Evelyn reached out, slow, fingers trembling like they might hold something fragile if only they could remember how. Don't. I stepped back, just enough. This isn't a fight. It's a line. Nathan let out a breath. Claire, this is dramatic. You think this is drama? I asked without venom. I waited, for invitations that never came, for someone to say, we were wrong. Not because I needed it, but because you did. And when I stopped waiting, I built something you couldn't ignore. Evelyn's posture faltered. The elegance remained, but the control had slipped. So what now? You just disappear again? I didn't come back to be accepted, I said. I came back to say goodbye. Her lips parted like she had more to give, but nothing came out. I'm not angry, I continued. Just finished. A beat, then another. No one spoke. Behind me, the door opened. Erin stood to the side, silent, precise. The driver's silhouette was waiting beyond her, respectful. I walked forward. Same heels, same pace, same door. 9 years ago, I left without a single raised voice. And tonight, I stepped through it again. Only this time, I didn't look back. The next morning, I received 5 missed calls, 2 voicemails, and 1 handwritten note by courier. I didn't read any of them. Sunlight streamed through the windows of my apartment in Seattle, casting long, even rectangles across the hardwood floor. The air was clean, quiet. The only sound a faint hum from the espresso machine on its automatic cycle. A routine built not from habit, but from choice. Everything here was mine, from the view of Lake Union to the silence I no longer had to earn. Erin entered without knocking. She never did when it wasn't necessary. She handed me my phone without a word. I scanned the screen, then set it face down on the table. "Block them all," I said. She nodded. There was no satisfaction in it, only simplicity. I didn't need to listen to Evelyn's curated regret or Nathan's attempts at brotherly reconciliation. Brandon would be pitching something. He always did. And Vanessa might have taken up coding overnight for all I knew. None of it mattered. I pulled out a small cardboard box and opened it. Inside, 2 items. The letter, the original, the still folded, still creased from its journey across years and agencies. And beside it, a printed photograph, taken from the street through the estate's tall dining room window. The table was set, the lights were warm, the silver gleamed. And there, at the end of the long table, was an empty chair. Mine. I sealed the box without a note. No return address. Erin watched as I placed it near the door. "Courier's coming at 10, she said. Good. Neither of us spoke for a moment. The city outside stirred to life, oblivious. Planes circled in their descent, ferries pulled in with tired commuters, and somewhere, Greenwich would be opening that box. I imagined Evelyn's face when she saw the picture. Whether she understood it. Whether she saw the chair before the message inside. 1 line. No signature. I was there. You just didn't see me. Erin's voice was soft, precise. "Tokyo's ready. Are you?" I looked down at my wrist, fastened the watch. The same one I wore last night. The same one I checked when Evelyn called me an embarrassment. Time didn't heal. It revealed. "Let's go close the NATO bid," I said. And I walked out, just as I had before. Only this time, everything was exactly where it should be. Tokyo moved with a rhythm entirely its own. Deliberate, composed, unbothered by noise. I stood by the window of the Imperial, tea cooling in my hand, watching the city ease into dusk. The meeting had ended 3 hours ago. NATO had signed. Erin was handling the logistics. No champagne, no speech. Just results. I'd worn black again. Clean lines, quiet power. The same neutrality that had always made people underestimate me, until it didn't. The document sat neatly on the desk behind me. Signed, sealed, sovereign. We had secured the deal without needing the Whitmore name, without anyone else's approval but our own. Erin had whispered on the way out of the ministry building. They didn't blink. Not once. And I hadn't needed them to. Outside, the sky blushed faintly with early evening. Planes crossed above in near-silent arcs. Below, people moved like coordinated threads, efficient, intentional. No one here knew the name Whitmore. No one cared. And for the first time in a decade, that anonymity felt like freedom, not exile. My phone buzzed once. I didn't check it. Erin had rerouted everything through her line after the last wave of regretful messages. Apparently, Nathan had issued a family memo asking for rebuilding trust. Vanessa had emailed a curated apology. Evelyn, ever the master of emotional choreography, had sent flowers. White lilies, of course. Classic. Formal. Empty. They were still sitting in the hotel hallway, unopened. Erin had asked if I wanted them sent back. No, I'd said. Let them wonder what happened to them. Some endings didn't need punctuation, just silence. I sipped the tea. Lukewarm. Still bitter. Still real. When I was younger, I used to imagine closure as some grand declaration. A courtroom monologue, a perfectly timed comeback. The villain's downfall broadcast in high definition. But the truth? Closure was quiet. It didn't announce itself. It didn't ask for applause. It just stopped needing to prove anything. And there it was. Finally. Erin entered the room without sound. Her presence an extension of my own. Disciplined, unwavering. "They're waiting downstairs," she said. "Car's ready." I nodded. She paused. "There's one more thing." I turned. She walked over and placed a black envelope on the desk, thicker than usual. My name printed in handwriting that tried too hard to be familiar. I had it scanned, Erin said. No threats, just desperation. I looked at it but didn't touch it. Trash it. She nodded once and left again. My fingers traced the rim of the cup. The watch on my wrist ticked forward, steady, precise. It was the only sound in the room. For years, I had lived trying to measure up to a silence that had been weaponized against me. Evelyn's looks, Nathan's sighs, Brandon's jokes. The family dinners where I wasn't there. And when I wasn't meant to be. They'd filled rooms with presence, but never space for me. And I'd spent too long mistaking proximity for belonging. Now, distance had become the clearest answer. It wasn't that I didn't love them. That would have been easy. No, I had loved them, exactly as I remembered them. Which is why it had hurt so precisely. And why I had stopped. Not because I couldn't take it anymore, but because I didn't need to. A knock. Erin again. Flight 90, she said. I walked past her without speaking, without needing to. My heels echoed against the hallway floor, soft but unmissable. Downstairs, the car waited. We slid in, doors shut, engine low and smooth. As the city peeled away outside, neon and steel folding into twilight, I leaned back and looked ahead. No rearview mirror. Just forward. Just now. Just enough. The Whitmore estate remained silent long after Claire's shadow had vanished. Not because they lost her, but because they never saw her to begin with. What they dismissed as absence had become power, and what they once mocked now moved nations. Justice hadn't knocked on their door with fury, but with quiet precision. And when it came, it needed no introduction. Because when truth walks away on its own terms, it doesn't slam the door. It locks it behind her. If you felt the power in Claire's journey, like, share, and subscribe. And comment 1 if her strength resonated with you.